Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets. Today we're going to take a look at Ichimoku trading with regard to the Forex market and our currency pairs and use that type of technical analysis. But before we actually do that, this risk disclaimer explaining that trading for exchange is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational purposes only. So we thank you for your attention on that. As you know, this slide is just a small explanation of a trading plan where we want to take a look at what the trend is, what is the opportunity, what kind of filters do we have, what is the trigger, and how do we enter. And today, usually we use fibs, trend lines, and moving averages for that. I think I'll still use that a bit, if you don't mind, but the main focus will be more on Ichimoku though. Ichimoku, sorry. Alrighty. So with that said, let's take a look at the calendar here. No, first our webinars. Tonight we have Introduction to Harmonic Patterns. Talita and I will be talking about that at 5 p.m. GMT. And the next week, of course, we have the usual list of webinars in the evenings and mornings, and the live trading lab will have trend channels, focus, reversal trading, and intraday trading. And next week's educational webinar will be oscillators part 2. Alrighty, let's take a look at the calendar. Yesterday we had CAD. The CAD interest rate stayed the same, but it definitely had a very big effect on the CAD weakness. We were talking about a pound, relatively pound strength, odd and yen, and CAD weakness this week. That was our main focus, I would say, throughout the week. And that CAD weakness certainly got a follow through yesterday with the news event, right? So unfortunately, I don't trade interest days. In fact, I'm even wondering if that's a good policy, because technically the CAD was perfectly set up, dollar CAD for upside, but I avoided it because of that news event. And I think I'll have to do some more research if that's really a wise thing, because sometimes I think it takes away some profitability there. But something to research in any case. No matter what your style, we have today more news again, but they're not. They're regular. Let me say this: regular red tagged events. I always consider interest rates to be a bit of a higher standard than a normal red tag. But that is the German PMI in 39 minutes. CAD core retail sales and USD home sales, and some lighter and medium ones in between. Alrighty, let's take a look at our charts. I was reading an article about Bill Gates, in fact, just before our webinar here, which shows he was talking about there's an economic summit in Davos, yearly one, and he was talking about the 3 myths of poverty. So I was reading that. We're starting to read. I didn't get too far, but let's see. Let's start with the euro dollar as always. We had, of course, this bear flag in place. It's still actually a channel, right? It's still moving within this channel, and price is moving up and down within these these lines, orange and magenta. We're getting apparently a pretty sturdy bounce off the bottom of that bear flag. As you know, I'm looking for a break of that bear flag to the downside, but it hasn't happened yet, and let's see if it does. This is a pretty impulsive bounce, but we've had previous impulses to the upside here, and we still remained within this channel. So I would really only change my opinion or start to change it if we really be able to break above this 135.82. That's only 8 pips away from now. We're very close to that resistance. That could easily act as a key level and stop this upside in its tracks, right? So we have to be careful of that. If we do manage to break above that, of course, things change. As I said, the bearish scenario, the downtrend that we have here, not getting the follow through that could have happened. I'm not saying that we should get necessary follow through here because we are at a potential daily support level. So therefore, it is possible to see this turnaround here. So I'm open to both sides, really. I'm open to the downside continuation because, yes, there is that downside momentum we can see clearly on the 1 hour and 4 hour chart. But I'm also open to a break above here because that means that this is probably a turning spot of the daily chart, and we're going to make at least some upside after that. So these are the two lines in the sand for me, the top and the orange line. Those are the triggers. Now, those are not necessarily entry. For the downside, the break of the orange is almost immediately the entry indeed. I wouldn't mind to take an entry below here, a break of that. I'm not looking to enter though above the red line. For me, it is a significant level, but it isn't a level I want to immediately trade. How I would be trading it would be, I would wait for a break, want to see some candles above this, make a bull flag, preferably above the resistance, so I know that the resistance has become support, and then the next break, the continue part, that's the one I actually want to enter. So the red line is the trigger, but it's not the entry. So in orange, in the case of the orange trend line, there it's very close, right? It's just a few pips difference. I'll just wait for the fractal, which is just a tad lower. So that's the usual technical analysis that I would give you based on fibs and moving averages. But let's take a look at the Ichimoku, and let me put the I don't think I have a template here. You know, I will actually make a template so it's easier to for me to put on the chart. I think, oh, it's right here. Okay, good. Or I'll still make a template. It's easier. 1 second. Sorry about that. In any case, we can see the Kumo cloud here, right? Price is above it at the moment. And the Kumo itself is actually bullish now. Oh, I already have a, do I already have a Ichimoku template? Sorry. Ah, kind of weird candles though. Purple and black. Do you like that? Not too sure about that. I'll just go back. Sorry, I'll use the old one. Alrighty. I think it's better, these candles. Let me open the question box though to see what you wrote. Adrian thinks it's too big to be a bear flag. I don't agree with that. No. Sorry. But this is actually a 1 hour consolidation period that could easily be a bear flag. It has 3 hits. It's actually a pretty nice one. Nothing too big about it in my opinion. I've seen these things easily break to the downside. If we would have maybe 2 more days, then I would say definitely I would agree with you, but I can give tons of examples that where this zone like this would be a bear flag. Plenty. There's no doubt about it. Now, how many of these are bear flags and how many turn to be channels, I don't know, but that doesn't really matter because all we're waiting for is either a break of this magenta line, right? If it doesn't break, no harm lost, right? So the division of how many times this is a bear flag or the start of a base for an upside It's really irrelevant because more importantly is how many times does this break and how many times is the false breakout, because that's the only time we enter really. But there are definitely plenty of examples where this breaks to the downside. Let's see. Ichimoku, we got well, there's so many time frames to look at. I guess we'll have to limit it a bit. Let's focus on 1 hour, I guess, because if we start looking at the cloud on all time frames, it's going to take ages. So let's take a look at primarily, I would say, the hourly and 4 hourly. If you have a particular idea, chart you want to take a look at on any currency pair regarding the Ichimoku, just let me know, okay? Then we'll look at that one specifically. Brian is asking if it's stupid to sell at the top of the channel. No. It's definitely it's a very technical trade, in fact, but you might want to be careful at the moment because this is looking, I don't know what kind of thing this is at the moment, but it's looking very aggressive. So I wouldn't do it in this case. If you look at the 5 minute, the volatility is quite. Something seems to be driving this very, very steeply. I would wait for a moment if I were you, because we could have some downside, but this is looking very, very impulsive for whatever reason. Don't get me wrong, the idea is good. All right, definitely, because it would have worked well many times. It has very good merit. Don't get me wrong. It's just that currently, if you look at the lower time frames, it's unusually strong. So what you probably want to see at least is some consolidation here, and then we could expect a downside off of that resistance line. You want to see that momentum fade away a bit before jumping on that, because it could entail certain risks with a big impulse like that. Just in my opinion, at least. Let's take a look at the hourly again. Tenkin is above Ichimoku, and we're getting a breakout of the cloud. And we see this one above as well. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. 4 hours still below the cloud. Quite a thin cloud here. Let's see. We got the Tenkin is still underneath. What we're looking for preferably is the Tenkin to cross the Kiyun underneath the cloud, because that's a or the opposite, of course. An uptrend, that would be the example of a downtrend, because then you have a strong crossover. But even weak crossovers like this, you can see did pretty well. Depends from case to case, of course. Here in this example, we had a weak crossover, but that didn't go all too far. As you can see here, we had a medium crossover with the Tenkin underneath the Kiyun. So you can see that the best long trades are above the Kumo, right? That's in this zone. The price is now heading towards that. The question is, of course, if we can break through that level. It's definitely possible, but we'll have to see. From a daily perspective, we're still bouncing off the more or less the bottom of the Kumo, so that could still be support. Tenkin is flat, Kiyun is flat, and the Chinku span is above the cloud still. Forgive me if I say any of these names wrong, but I hope I say them right. There could be some wall of resistance here also in the cloud, and the horizontal level at around 137. Alrighty. As you know, I don't use Ichimoku personally in my own trading. It's just thought it would be interesting to look at it together. In fact, I do have some strategies regarding Ichimoku. They're regarding crossovers on the 4-hour chart, primarily looking for either strong crossovers if the daily chart is trending up, and the daily chart would have to be basically the price would have to be Tenkin, and Tenkin would have to be above the Q, and this is not a daily uptrend at the moment, if I remember correctly, and would have to be a strong crossover. And I also have a 1-hour Kumo break strategy, but looking for the Kumo break in the direction of the 4-hour trend, though. So this would be a counter trend break to the upside here. So I'm curious, we have pound news or euro news in 2 minutes. Sorry, let's take a look. I know a Spanish unemployment rate, 26, slightly higher, tremendously high, unbelievably high, in fact, more than a quarter, quite a crazy figure, in fact. Hopefully that will go down one day, or hopefully very soon, in fact. The sooner the better, but still increasing apparently, although slightly. You got Euro-German manufacturing PMI, which is actually a bit more, apparently more important for the market, which is in 24 minutes. Alrighty, so the pound dollar is moving up, very bullish. We talked about pound strength and the fact that we got a break out of this this resistance, this triangle, bounce off the daily channel, in fact, the daily uptrend channel, and this triangle, this break, pull back, and go were trades that we, if I remember correctly, we were talking about, and we're getting the continuation of the pound uptrend on the daily chart. Right, this is still an uptrend. We had some consolidation here, but it happened above the weekly resistance that we broke, and now we're getting the follow-through on the next break. Right, so this is basically, from a weekly perspective, this is a break, pull back, and continue from the weekly chart. How far can that go? It could go definitely some distance still. We got 167.40-ish is a big weekly top. That's definitely a key level, and we'll have a tremendous influence or impact on the long-term perspective of the pound versus the dollar. In the meantime, until we reach that level, there could be some lower time frame continuation up to that. And then, of course, we have the big question, can we break or bounce? If we do break, the pound is breaking actually a triangle formation without doubt to the upside. If we do respect it, then there is still a potential for that weekly triangle to turn out to be bearish. Minus 272, 166.50 is minus 272 target, and we have 166, of course, this top. So those are still things that we have to be careful of. So there's not too much space here, but there is still some. There's about 50 pips between 166 and 166.50, and about another 80 between the target and the bigger resistance indicated by red. Would I do anything here? No, because we're right in front of 166. So in my opinion, nothing to do right now. There was a smaller bull flag like this. Personally, I wouldn't trade this, or triangle. I wouldn't be looking to trade this break so close to 166, but actually would have preferred, a bit, maybe just a tad deeper retracement down to the 38.2, for example. That's something I would definitely have liked, because then there's some more space up to those targets. A break so soon of this bull flag is something I don't really find interesting. Not enough space for me to trade it, according to my money management ideas. 23.6 is quite a shallow fib, but so let's see if we can really break to the upside. This could be still part of the consolidation, and maybe we move to 38.2. Maybe not. In any case, if it doesn't, I'll have to wait for something else. This was a good break, though. This was a good break. This was a good pullback, etc. But this could turn out to be one, but as I said, too shallow. So let's take a look at Ichimoku. Hopefully, oh no, I'll do the template. 1 second. All right, sorry folks, I think audio was lost for just a minute. I was talking about the pound dollar upside. I hope you heard that. I just put on the Ichimoku template, and you can see here was a strong crossover, and yeah, that, well, here they were equal. So here there was a strong one above the Kumo cloud. The 4-hour chart, it's a bit questionable if it was trending at that point. The Tenkin was definitely above the Kiyun. Price was, yeah, was just on the board of the Kumo. So I guess that would have been a bit of a discretionary call on that one. For me personally, I definitely would have liked that break because we were at that point we were close to breaking this, or about to break, or were already breaking this magenta trend line. So from my perspective, that was definitely a valid setup there upon the crossover, although I would have been looking for this break of this trend line, right? And it actually crossed. Where did it cross exactly? It's difficult to tell. Probably here, in fact. Not here, sorry. The Tenkin, yeah, Tenkin crossed here. So that would be the Ichimoku example of a breakout of this trend line, in fact, right? In a way. And we did get the continuation. So that's an example of a strong crossover above the Kumo cloud with the 4-hour world trending. Let me put the vertical line where it should be. That's there, and you see indeed price was above the Kumo, Tenkin above the Kiyun. 4-hour was an uptrend, so this strong crossover in above the Kumo and a 4-hour uptrend. And this basically also confirms, you know, the technicals that we were using this week, right, with regard to fibs and trend lines and channels. So that was an example. This is a very nice example of a breakout. You can either use the Kiyun as a trail stop. It is slower, or the Tenkin. The Tenkin is a lot faster, but then you would have definitely been stopped out probably here. Or you could, yeah, I think I would have used something like, if I remember correctly, I was using a 15 pips trail stop. Let me see if that would have survived. Ooh, it was close, 56.3. No, I think it's just about exactly 15 pips, so it depends where it would have been placed. It was close though, but maybe still in this trade, maybe not. Don't know. Depends. Doesn't matter. But in any case, we have nothing to trade right now because this is trending. We had the crossover already here, so that trade is behind us. Let me take a look at the 5 for the fun of it. Big impulse up. Anyhow, let's go to the 4-hour, and we can see that it kind of looks messy, doesn't it, if it's choppy like this, a chart. But in any case, we can see that this is trending as well, and the daily trending as well. So definitely a trend here. So this is one of those examples of a weak crossover that's doing pretty good so far, but the daily is up. So if you have a daily up and you have a weak crossover on the 4, then those tend to do better, of course, than if the daily is down. Obviously, this weak crossover where it went to the downside when the daily is up goes a lot more choppier in its price action. Let's see, Euro Pound is retracing up. Euro Dollar is now pushing above this top. So it is really pushing above 135.82. It's already a clear 20 points above it. So this is a channel to the upside, most likely, that is now being, we now see acceleration above this magenta line. That's why it's good to keep an eye on both these lines, the lower and the bottom one, because then we can know whether this is a bear flag or a channel. It could be either. We don't know. That's the thing. It could be a bear flag. We break this to the downside. Then we know it's a bear flag. It can break to the upside. Then we know that this is actually a channel, and it's just making deep retracements, and then we accelerate eventually. It could be both. And Euro accelerating more than the pound at the moment because it's retracing after this thrust to the downside. Let's see, Aussie dollar. The Aussie news event made it spike up pretty good, but that was all. After that, just downside. This break actually could be very interesting. A good trend line, good downside, good downtrend. There's only one thing though. Let's see. We already made a very sturdy downside here. And I'm a bit leery of the fact that with the 5-minute divergence between these bottoms, that we could see a bigger correction before we do move down. So we are breaking a trend line, but it's happening at a spot. If it would have been a bit different if we would have made a bigger bounce here and then break. You know, that would have been a bit different situation, but because we just made a very small consolidation in the 5-minute world and then broke, that means that this entire move down is kind of like, is more of a one swing high, swing low, and that means that this is already a pretty big swing high, swing low, and therefore the chances are getting higher and higher that we make a bigger correction. I would rather trade after that bigger correction than trading this small break here. So I would rather wait and see on the Aussie. It is a good, it is a break, but I'd rather skip this particular break and wait for the next one. Hopefully there is a next one, but if not, then what can you do? I don't like the structure of this. I mean, it's a good downtrend. I just rather wait for a bigger consolidation. Here you can see that downtrend. And of course, this downtrend has its better parts where we have very big impulses and has certain areas where we, of course, have substantial corrections. And if you look at it that way, it's pretty neat, isn't it? So let's take a look at the Ichimoku one more time. I don't want to, maybe this is the last time. I don't want to, unless you have a specific currency, you want to look at the Ichimoku, all right? Otherwise, I'll make this one the last one. The Swiss yen is definitely something we can look at. Bob, sorry about that. We'll take a look after that one, after this one, and first the yen, and then we'll take a look at the Swiss yen. Alrighty. The Kiyun is actually lower than the Tenkin, indicating that, basically confirming, of course, this bigger up impulse that we saw. So this is actually when, if the Tenkin can cross below the Kiyun here, which it hasn't happened, we would actually have a strong crossover below the Kumo, very thick Kumo at the moment. So that could be a good downside trade, a good downside break, strong downside break. The daily chart is definitely in the downtrend. Price is below the Kiyun and Tenkin and the Kumo cloud. You can see this is one of those examples of a weak crossover. Why is it weak? Because the Tenkin is crossing the Kiyun above the Kumo. All right. The Tenkin, just in case you don't know, is kind of like a faster EMA, whereas the Kiyun is a slower EMA. So if the Tenkin crosses the Kiyun, of course it's difficult to calculate, but just in case you don't know what it is, that you have a grasp for the concept. And if the Tenkin crosses the Kiyun in a certain direction, that means that if the Tenkin is crossing to the downside, that means there's more momentum down at the moment. So that, but if it happens, if that crossover happens above the Kumo, it's a weak crossover. If the Tenkin crosses above the Kiyun, right? Let me make Tenkin blue, and no, Kiyun is blue, Tenkin is red. If we have a cross like this, and the Tenkin is going above, and the cloud is here, that is a strong crossover. Okay. If the cloud is not here, but it's actually here, then it's a medium crossover because the crossover is happening in the cloud. Or if the crossover is happening underneath the cloud, that's a weak crossover because there's momentum to the upside, but there's still resistance above. That's what it means. Basically, Kumo is the support or resistance, and the Tenkin cross is the momentum direction. So with the Kumo is more or less the trend direction, the trend definition, and the Tenkin and the Kiyun are more or less the momentum decider. So if you have trend up and momentum up, they're aligned. If you have trend up but momentum is down, that's a weak crossover. If you have trend down, momentum down, it's a strong crossover. If you have trend down, momentum up, it's a weak crossover. Just in case some of this is new to you, we do have a webinar on Ichimoku, by the way, that you can find in the archive, okay? So this is an example of a weak crossover that did very well. Why is that? Because the weekly chart is down. You can basically use this strategy, but you need to make sure that the weak crossover is happening in a spot where the other higher time frame, basically, the one higher time frame, is in a trending mode. Then those weak crossovers tend to work better because then basically this chart had a bigger retracement, and now we're actually continuing with the trend of that higher time frame. And did we have that on the Aussie? Well, I'm pretty sure, but let's check. Yes, we did, right? Downtrend on the Aussie on the weekly chart. Very clear. Sorry about that. I'm drinking some tea. So that was a good week crossover. And it looks like we could have another strong crossover here on the daily as well on the Aussie. Now you might not want to just trade those, every time because they're not due as well every time. You definitely want to have some confirmations of other elements. The hourly seems to be pushing through the Kumo. So let's see. Yeah, I think any up move should probably find resistance here. I don't see it breaking above that level, 88.30. There's a Kumo, there's this resistance, this bottom that was broken. Clearly, we're having a breakout. The only thing I would like to wait for is a bit of a retrace, which I think we'll make, and I don't think we'll break this bottom, and then we'll probably move down. I really cannot see it differently than that at the moment. If we put a fib on it, I would say max 50 fib, or the 38 to maybe even the 23.6. It depends how the pattern will unfold, and then I would expect downside. So let's see if that indeed is true. So that's the odd USD. Let me now take a look at the Euro Pound once again, because Björn is in the Euro Pound. Or that maybe not, yeah, not help. I'm not sure if he needs help because he's up 42 pips, so that's good. And is thinking what to do, to take profit or maybe stay in, for example. Let's take a look. Björn, what time frame did you take the trade on, in fact? What was your intended target? Either soft target or hard TP. Okay, 1 hour. And what was your original risk in terms of pips? And do you have it at break even at the moment? I know there's a lot of questions, but let's see, the 1 hour chart. Well, I'll take a look at the hourly in a second. Let me just take a look at the daily. You would think there's some space to the 81.40. That is the -618 target. That was the area I thought the currency could fall to. Well, remember when we said this break upon these green support levels, we could see a fall down to -618. So there seems to be some space still to that level. Oh, you're in a long. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. Yeah, that's a bit of a different perspective. I thought you were in a short and you were scared of this retracement up. Let's see. Well, I don't know. I think the max it can go up to is probably this support zone that has now most likely become resistance. I don't think it can break above this level here. There is some divergence, that's true. So I would expect anywhere between magenta and the green lines to become resistance at the very maximum, I would say. And then from my perspective, I would expect from this zone one more fall down to 81.40, down to the -618. So if you're up 40 pips in the long, that means you bought it at 81.47. Which is a bit difficult. When did you buy it? That was a long time ago then, or not? Because the low here is at 81.68. So that would be 30 pips. In any case, if you have the TP just below magenta, it doesn't matter. If you have it, if you bought it, let's say in this consolidation, probably 81.73. Okay. Good counter trend reversal trade. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 hours. We didn't break this bottom, so it was a good timing from your side, that's for sure. Personally, I would be more, if I would be trading the Euro Pound, which I have, my goal of this year is not to trade the Euro Pound, as you know. and I'm definitely going to succeed in that because I don't like this one. We should, but I do analyze it. I would expect this I would be more focused on catching this to the downside, but it is a good reversal trade for up to there, I would say, or maybe even there. So if your TP is there, there's a good chance to get there. But there is also a chance of finding resistance here. That's the difficult thing with retracements, is that they can stop eventually. This is an impulse, though. We are at the 15-minute green band, and that could become a resistance. But there's definitely still a potential for one more push up. We do have a very strong 5-minute AO, so we can get some kind of bull flag like that and then push up. So it depends what you want to live through. If you don't want to live through, whoa, well, apparently this is going your way. So I wanted to say, if you don't want to live through some bull flag like this, then you might want to take your conclusions. If you don't mind, then it could be some consolidation continuation, I wanted to say. Doesn't look so as yet. Thanks, Björn. Björn is saying MACD 850 and 9 is awesome for counter trend. So everyone, thanks you, Björn, for the tip. Can you share with us? Let me put it on actually for the fun of it, if you don't mind. Let's see where that moment was. So what time did you buy that euro pound, Björn? Just curious what point. You can see that no, I'm not the date, I mean the time itself. Well, now that we're pushing through this green band, um, although we can still get a consolidation, there is a decent chance of making that next blast up, I would say. Perhaps we would like to see an hourly close above this black band, in my opinion. That's how I would look at reversals. I don't trade reversals that much, but if I do, then I use that to look at these bands to see if we get a close on that, there's a decent chance of going to the green band, or maybe just falling shy of it. So then your TP should be fine. So we can check in half an hour again. Let's take a look at the dollar yen. Oh, we should use the Ichimoku for the dollar yen too, because the yen Ichimoku is an indicator that was invented by a person from Japan. Forgot his name for the moment. Doesn't matter. What can you do? I'll look it up. But in any case, you know, the yen works very well. Actually, the Ichimoku was designed for the Japanese stock market, if I remember correctly. Thank you, Adrian. There was a good PMI number, Adrian is saying. can't read what the number is as yet, so I'll go back to that. In any case, dollar yen still stuck in this consolidation from my perspective, still stuck in this triangle. Although we had this is a false breakout here, a very small breakout and pushed back. That's unfortunate. Other than that, basically ignoring this false breakout, we're still in this triangle. I'm still waiting for a break above it or a break below it. So let's take a look at the Ichimoku on the yen, because that's definitely worth it to look at this on the dollar yen, especially the dollar yen, I should say, and all other yen pairs, but we'll stick with the dollar yen for today. It's a bit of a mix. I mean, it's really, in my opinion, also these price bouncing around the Kumo cloud like that, definitely showing choppiness on the 1 hour chart. 4 hour chart, Tenkan is above the Kumo, Tenkan is above the Kiyun, and the Kiyun is above the Kumo. The Sinku span is kind of caught in price, so you can see that it is struggling a bit there. Looks more bullishly set up at the moment, so maybe we can get the break here of this trend line. Obviously, the day chart is uptrend, but we just actually had a weak crossover, but I would ignore that one because the weekly chart is certainly up. Look at the strong Tenkan. The Tenkan is very steep angle, very thick cloud, so I would definitely ignore that weak crossover. Look more for a strong crossover back into the direction of the uptrend on the daily. And yeah, that's about it regarding the dollar yen. From my perspective, if I go back to the normal template I use, once again, I would be rather look for a break of this trend line or a break of this one. Alrighty, so maybe indeed, yeah, Herman, it could be true. I'm not sure actually. Would seem logical, you think, huh? Let's see. Darshan, good morning. View on dollar CAD and pound CAD. Definitely. The odd weakness had its rough ups and downs, but definitely there was some odd weakness in general, I mean, throughout the week. The yen weakness didn't get much follow through, but the CAD weakness was pretty amazing. It's just a pity I didn't buy it because of the news event filter. That's something I really have to do some research on. If these filters I use regarding the news is something that is profitable for swing trading. But in any case, let's go to this template. It looks very bearish for the CAD. Pound CAD moved up to about 2,500 pips in the meantime. That pound CAD is breaking with no tomorrow, especially because the pound dollar, of course, has had more upside as well. So that means there was more pound strength against the CAD than the dollar CAD. So the pound CAD was even more in the uptrend than the dollar CAD. The dollar CAD moved up a lot too. It finally kind of broke out of this consolidation. It took long. We had this triangle in play, of course, like this triangle. Sorry, that finally broke. Let's take a look when exactly. It took some time, but it broke about was end November, right? So when we get a consolidation above the weekly breakout, and the moving averages are all aligned, and prices above the moving average, above resistance, and boom, then you got this. We got the first breakout here, went up right to the minus 272 target of the weekly fib, and that's where we stopped, and that's where I was warning we could pause here a few days because it's a bigger fib, right? So that's what happened. So this is the breakout of the weekly up to the 272 target. Then we got that bigger consolidation, and then last night's interest rate decision, we got the follow through. What was expected, because this was a break consolidation break. So that's good, looking very, very bullish on this dollar CAD. So back to the weekly, you can see there's really no resistance level except the minus 618. That would be the next target. There's no resistance here or here anymore left. And this is definitely, in my opinion, it took very long to start. It took very, 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 very long because there were a lot of deep retracements here. But now finally getting the break of that weekly resistance, that weekly triangle that was on the chart for so long. And if we look at it from this perspective, from the day chart perspective, one could even say that we're in a way breaking out of this daily uptrend channel, right? We had an uptrend channel like this that worked pretty nicely. And now not only did we break out of the weekly resistance, but we broke out of this uptrend channel, thereby accelerating the uptrend in fact. So down to more specifics, 1 hour chart, what I would be looking for is a pullback. I was hoping for a pullback today, but it's actually continuing to break out. I was hoping that that it would go back to the 38.2 fib, for example. Maybe the 50, maybe it's even small chance of 61.8, but mainly the 38.2 that was the biggest likelihood for a bounce up. That doesn't seem to be happening because we stopped at 23.6. Would have been very interested in the 38.2 because this is definitely a strong break. Pull back and go would have been a good scenario here, with the target being the minus 618 at minimum at 112.84, if not all the way at this minus 618 at 114, which is lined up with the minus 1272. So that looks like a strong region there. So it looks upside to there. It's, I guess, just a question of how to get in, but this is somehow, not sure what's happening, kind of funny movement on the dollar CAD so early. Moved up 50 pips already. So at the moment I have no entry method here on this dollar CAD. As I said, I was waiting for the bigger retrace, and now it doesn't happen. I would probably let it hit the minus 272 and make a bull flag and take the next break. To take a break of this, another solution, of course, if you don't want to wait for that, would be a break of this top, plus a stop loss here, and targeting the minus 272 or minus 618, but that would be the only alternative I could see at the moment. Pound CAD. Yeah, that's very, very aggressive, very bullish indeed. We were down at 174, now up at 185, about 1,100 pips within 2.5 weeks. This was a very great break. Then we had a pretty big consolidation, a break of that, small bull flag, and continue, as you can see. And that continue has really, really gained a lot. And this is the whole weekly. As you can see, tremendous upside. It's like a rocket at the moment. The resistance is at 192. It's difficult to imagine how much it can still continue this week, though. But it's just on every time frame, it's a rocket up. So, and now again, it's quite funny. This is the 15. And you can see that after this, we had so many breaks here. 2 breaks here, and if we then zoom into the recent break, you can see this was a consolidation, here was a consolidation. It's difficult to trade it at the moment because of that massive upside at the moment that's pushing it. What I'm trying to say is that these were consolidations that were easier to trade because of the smaller stop loss and the recent break. But once you get into here, it gets a bit more difficult. Here too, the pound CAD could have been a break, could have been an entry upon the break of this top with a stop loss here. But you're definitely getting into a level where you would think that we get once in a while we would get back a retrace to this black band. If we do get that and we get a bull flag, then I would be more interested in taking a break to the upside again. So my view on pound CAD is bullish. It is definitely moving up. It's a strong uptrend on all time frames. It's just that it has moved up so much that I'd rather wait for retracement and a small continuation upside. How much can this go up from a bigger time perspective? Difficult to say, but this next resistance is only at 193, so there could still be some space up, in fact. So after some correction, we could see this uptrend continue until that 193. New Zealand CAD is showing the same. That too is pretty strong. Odd CAD and Yen CAD, for example, are pairs you might want to avoid because those 3 have been relatively the weakest, so you don't want to trade those against each other. But the New Zealand CAD, Pound CAD, Dollar CAD, those are the best because CAD is pretty weak, and those 3 are relatively the strongest of them all, I think. So those are the best combinations indeed. You can see here's the New Zealand dollar to see if the the New Zealand CAD or the dollar CAD, for example, is better. And you can see it's quite choppy anyhow. So, you know, there's a triangle, so really both have their own advantages. If we compare Pound CAD with the New Zealand CAD, then we should take a look at the Pound New Zealand. And we can see the pound is actually breaking to the upside on the 1-hour chart. There was this triangle indeed on the chart. I was looking for a downside break. It does look like we're breaking to the upside. So there seems to be a bit more pound strength than New Zealand strength at the moment. So that pound CAD makes more sense than New Zealand CAD. Yeah. I still had New Zealand CAD in mind because there was this trend line triangle basically. Although the daily chart is very choppy. Very choppy weekly chart here as well. Look at that. Quite a mess. A lot different in the pound odd and the euro odd. Definitely. In that regard, it will be interesting to see if price can break eventually above maybe that consolidation like this. If you look at it from a weekly perspective, we are at the green band for a while. It'll be interesting if we can break above it for some pound strength versus New Zealand as well. Let's see. Or does it break this bottom line and do we see a fall here? It's a very consolidatory part of the chart here. So I was trying to look and see if I could find the number of the PMI, but it's not there. Does it? Well, doesn't matter. Let's see, what else can we look at? Let me take a look at, not sure, do you have any preference? We can still look at some yen crosses maybe. Does anyone have a preference? I don't think, maybe we could take a look at dollar Swissy. Oh, dollar Swissy broke to the downside, in fact. Oh yeah, because of the euro dollar is moving up. Let's see how that euro dollar is doing. You see? I didn't trust this upside. It was so impulsive. It's good to wait, as you can see, because it just kept on pushing. And I was afraid of that. I guess if you see something on the chart that has so much momentum in it, you can always see it just by looking at price, pure price, and the movement it makes. But not only that, it's also the tick size. If you look at the tick size, flipping back and forth a lot, there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of energy in the market. Now it's already more quieter. You see the price is just at 136.26. It's just staying there. When price was here, price was really going like this. The tick was like this. It was going up very fast. Up, down, up, down, up, down. When that happens, it's always better to wait for a 1 minute consolidation at least. You see, we didn't get that 1 minute consolidation here. We just pushed through. So then you want to be careful with selling a momentum burst like that. In fact, you might even want to think of the opposite, because there could be a good chance of breaking out in a way. Or at least sitting on the sidelines is recommended. So one way of looking at that is we should have opened, next time we see something like that, we should open this tick chart, because what you'll probably see is this relatively going fast, sideways. Alrighty. No preference yet. Let me see if I have a preference. Well, let's take a look at the euro yen and pound yen. I think those are always interesting. Let's take a look. And we had this consolidation. I was looking for an upside break or a downside break. Doesn't matter really, I thought. And we are getting the upside break at the moment. Daily chart definitely up. 4-hour big consolidation. 1 hour, we had really a potential break to both sides. We had this impulse, and then this impulse, and a triangle like that, which show really could have been a break like this, for example, or like this, was up. And I would say that the target would be this resistance line here. Pound yen, let's take a look at that. Let's see, we had a break of this magenta triangle as well after we broke this orange line. The target was the red one, but we actually stopped there, pulled back and then continued, made another pullback and continuing again. Next resistance is 174.84. That's still pretty far from here. So let's take a look at the 15. That looks like a bullish breakout too. I would say any fib on this and let it move to back to the moving averages in the 50, for example, here would be a bouncing spot. Even a 38.2 could be a bouncing spot for this. I wouldn't say pound yen. Sorry. Yeah, looking very bullish, both the euro yen and pound yen. The euro yen is, however, pretty close to a resistance. The pound yen isn't, in my opinion. That also ties in with the euro pound. That I can imagine that euro pound definitely moving down still one more time. Let's see if that happens. It is moving impulsively to the upside at the moment. So therefore, I would say the pound yen probably looking a tad better than the euro yen. Also, just from a technical point of view, there seems to be more space on the pound yen to the upside. So any pullback here for more upside making sense to me on the pound yen. So definitely an uptrend on the 4-hour daily chart, weekly chart, monthly chart at the moment. Well, maybe not monthly, but weekly chart for sure. Monthly, even monthly, yes. 4-hour, 1 hour, everything is up. So therefore, a pullback and go, and one more continue would most likely be a high probability trade. Alrighty, folks. Well, that I think is about it. Maybe we can still take a look at the euro odd. We didn't look at the euro odd and pound odd. That too has weakness. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. Otherwise, after that, after the euro odd and pound odd, I'll probably start closing it. But if you have questions, let me know. So then we have enough time to take a look at those. The euro odd nicely moving to the upside too. We were saying maybe, maybe this is a sign of weakness, but it definitely also, right, could be a part of this correction from upside. That looks to be so at the moment. That's why the reversal patterns are so difficult to trade. There's always that potential for a trend continuation. And we said, if we want to continue with the trend, we have to break above this magenta. And that's what's happening or happened. The target of that break would be this 155.97 at the moment, right? This red resistance there. The pound odd, found a bit of a difficulty at this top. That was unfortunate for myself. That was going along upon this break here, right there, that it didn't break through. It made first a deeper retracement and then went. That was a news event related pullback, which is a shame for me because it took me out there, but it is continuing after that. Didn't manage to re-enter though after it, but it did bounce from lower, respected this top, made a small bull flag here, and now breaking to the upside again. So it looks like bullishness at least to 192 in my opinion. So plenty of space, I would say. So anytime we get some smaller bull flag like this and we break to the upside, that's looking good for upside continuation of the pound odd too. Let's see. Let me take a look at the hourly again. Yeah. For instance, a pullback back to the broken tops would be very interesting, of course, at 187.50. That would be a very obvious level. Anytime we get a bull flag like that, then a break of that bull flag up to 192 would be almost an ideal breakout, I think, if something like that exists. Not even sure, of course, if price will make it back to the broken resistance, but if it does, that would be an ideal bouncing spot. If it doesn't, then I'll just keep an eye on any bull flag that is made, and any break of that bull flag is a breakout trade up to 192 on the pound odd. Alrighty, no questions so far. Dollar index breaking to the downside here at the resistance level that we were talking about. We were saying this is looking like a bit of a potential rising wedge, so we'll have to see if that's just a channel that can break through the resistance, or is it indeed a rising wedge that's happening at the top. And now that we're breaking through it, the latter could be true. Gold wasn't able to break this resistance zone that we had marked, but not moving all too far to any direction, in fact. And with that said, I think we covered most of the majors, in my opinion. So that wraps it up. Let's take a last look. I think we have, no, we don't have anything now. An hour from now, we have 2-year bond auction in France, or French bonds, and then the core retail sales on the CAD. Okay, nothing in between. Well, that wraps it up for today then. Thanks everyone for joining me, and we'll be tonight back with the harmonic patterns, in fact, with Tarantula and myself. So we'll discuss that. Hope to see you then, and wish you good trading today. Talk to you soon. Cheers.